Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving into a story that shocked global politics and sent shockwaves across Europe and the Arctic region. A story that sounds unreal but is rooted in real power struggles, strategic fears, and rapidly escalating responses. It begins with former US President Donald Trump openly reviving the idea of seizing Greenland, and it ends with European military forces moving in almost instantly, signaling that this was no joke and no empty threat. Greenland may look like a frozen, distant land on the map, but in reality, it has quietly become one of the most valuable strategic locations on Earth. Rich in rare minerals, positioned at the heart of Arctic shipping routes, and sitting between North America and Europe, Greenland has transformed from an icy wilderness into a geopolitical prize. Donald Trump first floated the idea of buying Greenland during his presidency, and at the time, many world leaders laughed it off as a bizarre statement. Denmark, which governs Greenland, rejected the idea outright, calling it absurd, but what sounded like a joke back then has slowly evolved into a serious discussion among military planners and global strategists. Fast forward to now, and Trump's renewed rhetoric has taken a much sharper tone. This time, it was not framed as a business deal or negotiation. Instead, his language suggested force, pressure, and dominance, raising alarms across Europe almost immediately. Trump's statements hinted that Greenland was too important to be left under European control, especially as global tensions rise and the Arctic becomes the next frontier of military competition. He framed it as a matter of national security, claiming the United States could not afford to let rivals gain influence there. The moment these comments went public, European capitals reacted with urgency. Denmark saw it as a direct threat to its sovereignty. France, Germany, and even smaller NATO members understood the deeper implication that the Arctic could become the next flashpoint between Western allies themselves. Within hours, reports emerged of European military coordination. Naval vessels began moving north, surveillance flights increased, Arctic troops were quietly placed on higher alert. This was not symbolic posturing. It was a calculated response to a perceived escalation. Greenland's leadership also broke its usual diplomatic silence. Officials made it clear that Greenland is not for sale, not for seizure, and not a bargaining chip in great power politics. They emphasized the right of Greenlandic people to decide their own future, rejecting any external pressure. What makes this situation even more dangerous is Greenland's strategic military value. The US already maintains Thule Air Base there, a critical hub for missile defense and early warning systems. Any shift in control or military presence could reshape global security balances overnight. European leaders feared that Trump's rhetoric could trigger a chain reaction. If the US openly challenges Denmark's authority over Greenland, it could weaken NATO unity and open doors for Russia and China to exploit the chaos. Russia, watching closely, has already expanded its Arctic military footprint. China, calling itself a near-Arctic state, has invested heavily in polar research and infrastructure. Both see Greenland as a gateway to future power in the Arctic. This is why Europe's response was so fast. They understood that hesitation could be interpreted as weakness. By moving military assets quickly, they sent a clear message that Greenland's status is non-negotiable and protected. Behind closed doors, intense diplomatic discussions began. European officials reportedly pressured Washington to clarify Trump's remarks and prevent further escalation. The fear was not just about Greenland, but about setting a dangerous precedent where powerful nations openly talk about seizing territory. The Arctic has long been governed by cooperation and treaties. Unlike other regions, it remained relatively peaceful despite global conflicts. Trump's statements threatened to shatter that fragile balance. Public opinion across Europe turned sharply against the idea. Media outlets called it imperial thinking. Analysts warned that such rhetoric could destabilize decades of alliance building. Social media exploded with criticism and fear at the same time. Some American commentators defended Trump's stance, arguing that Greenland's resources and location are too important to ignore. They framed Europe's reaction as overblown and insisted the US was simply protecting its interests. This divide highlights a deeper issue. the growing gap between American and European strategic visions. While the US increasingly focuses on dominance and unilateral action, Europe prioritizes stability, law, and collective security. Greenland itself sits uncomfortably in the middle. Its people face the reality that global powers are eyeing their land not for its culture or future, but for its strategic value. Climate change has only intensified this, as melting ice exposes new resources and shipping routes. As temperatures rise, the Arctic is no longer frozen and forgotten. It is becoming the center of future trade, military positioning, and economic competition. Whoever controls the Arctic could shape global power for decades. European military movements were also meant to reassure Greenland's population. By showing presence, Europe aimed to demonstrate commitment and protection against any external threat, even from allies. This moment may mark a turning point. Allies openly preparing for the possibility of conflict with each other is a sign that the global order is under strain. Trust once broken is hard to rebuild. Experts warn that even if Trump's comments never translate into action, the damage is already done. The idea of seizing Greenland has entered mainstream discussion, changing how nations plan and prepare. Denmark has since increased its defense budget for Arctic security. Joint European patrols are being discussed. Intelligence sharing in the region has intensified. The United States government officially downplayed the controversy, stating that no military action was planned. But the speed of Europe's response suggests they are no longer willing to rely solely on reassurances. This situation also raises questions about leadership and responsibility. Words spoken by powerful figures can move armies, shift markets, and destabilize regions. In today's world, rhetoric alone can be dangerous. Greenland remains calm for now, its icy landscapes unchanged, but beneath the surface, tension simmers. Military planners, diplomats, and intelligence agencies continue to monitor every move, every statement, every signal. What happens next depends on choices made far from Greenland's shores. De-escalation is possible, but so is further confrontation if rhetoric continues. One thing is clear, Greenland is no longer a distant island on the edge of the world. It is now at the center of a geopolitical storm, where power, fear, and ambition collide. This story is not just about land or ice, it is about the future of alliances, the rules of international behavior, and how close the world may be to new kinds of conflict. As events continue to unfold, the world watches carefully, because what happens in Greenland could set the tone for global politics in the years to come. Stay tuned, stay informed, and most importantly, understand that in today's world, even the coldest places can become the hottest flashpoints.